Okay. All right, let me try and do something here. Explain to some people that I've been uh, what's difficult to see when you're looking at this dead on. All right, now I got the shadows back in play because I've got the light positions like literally right over top of this thing, so it's giving me a little bit of too much shadowing. The minute I move my light out, shadowing disappears. All right, makes the eyes look even smaller. You see how small that eye looks now on the right hand side? And as I put it back, there goes all the. All right, the shadows are back in place. That's not the only thing I've discovered. Take a look at the lip. Hey, Takeoff, and I've been having issues with this sculpture thing, and I'm going to explain something. You guys are seeing everything in 2 dimensions. You're not seeing it in 3 dimensions. All right, and when you guys critique it, you're looking at photographs and you're looking at things that are 2 dimensional and not under the proper light. Like right now, I have lighting positioned for me when I'm working on the sculpture, not so much for what the final look's going to look like. And I was trying to explain how the eyes right now look very big, and what I want to show is how much that is false. All right, and how I show that is simply watch what happens when I reposition this light and look how much smaller the right eye looks now. All right, and then when I put the light back where it was, look how much bigger that right eye looks now. All right, the scowl is a little too big. It's sticking out too far. That's the issue with the lighting right now. I had to make sure that I have the scowl in a position where it looked correctly. Now, that's not the biggest thing I've discovered with what was wrong with this entire right side here. All right, and it all started with the depth that, once again, a 2 dimensional world cannot see. The depth of this entire cheek area was way too sunk back. When I was looking down, I was looking at my cheeks and not looking down all the way underneath the cheek. All right, so there was too much cut away here on this back side because I went too deep trying to get that same look. Well, I'm not done yet. Like I said, I'm still working on now. The left eye is finished. I am not messing with that because it was perfect the last time, and it's still perfect now because it hasn't been touched. All right. The scowl is the only thing I added was more scowl to it. But I haven't. This is what I worked on. This eye here and the scowl. This was never touched. And the last picture you sent me, was, the last time you did this, this was perfect. There was literally just a little bit too much right on that corner, right at the tip of my, right here, right at the very tip, right up here. There was a little too much on the sculpture. All I had to do is cut this back just a slight bit, and I had it perfect. And I did. I changed that just I literally took a not even a 16th of clay off the edge of that, just to fix it. If you go off of the last time you cut, what lines are you talking about? What lines you're talking about? The scowl, here. I had to reposition the scowl because the scowl wasn't far enough, wasn't wide enough. It was going straight up and down too much. All right, that's how I had to fix that. The scowl, this one here goes a little more straighter on the actual but this here had to go a little bit more of a slant this way. And now the change has been made, but there's too much here. It's too thick. I just have to lower that, and I have to add a little clay in the middle here, just a touch. But I have to. I needed to reposition that scowl because the scowl was wrong. Now the scowl is right. Now that's not the most important thing I want to point out here. This is where I'm going to show you the difference between not having the depth that you can't see the depth. All you can see is a two-dimensional straight-on picture here. You're not seeing the depth of the sculpture. All right, now here's what I'm talking about. Right here. When I was looking down, I was looking at these. I wasn't paying attention to what was going on down here. This side of the face, I literally had to pack completely out over here. This is still too high right in here a little bit. All right. But this here was never changed. None of this was ever changed. This was sunk in so far trying to make this lip right. It literally was sitting back here. And I was like, oh my God, it looks horrible. No wonder everything was so off looking. So I had to fix that. That's just still sticking out a little bit too much here. I got to bring this down a little bit more. But that's the depth is everything. You have to have the depth. Everything has to be the same depth. The eye cuts have to be the same depth when you're looking down on it. Same thing with the angles. When you're looking at it from a side view, you have to make sure that pitch is, damn it. You have to make sure that pitch is right on the eye cut going back. And if I shrink those eyes down even more, that pitch is going to change all the way up into here. And that is not going to work. That will not happen because that means the whole face will change. The whole look of this face will change. That is what I'm trying to tell you guys. You don't understand. When you start messing around with sizing and changing the eye sizes and changing the sculpture size, you lose all your angles. And that will not happen. I will not allow that to happen. That's what happened to me last time. I have to start trusting my own eyes here because I'm working in 3 dimensionals. You guys are working in 2-dimensional. All right, there's a big difference. Now, the reason why they're so shadowy there is because, one, there is an undercut to that eye cut. And all you got to do is bring it back, the lighting. And like I said, this thing was painted for the lighting to look right. The angle of that, looking at profile, the angle of that eye cut is on the friggin' money. All right, when you start shrinking that eye cut and making it smaller, you lose that angle because now you're making the eye too small. And that eye was never changed, and that's why I stick to my rule of thumb with this. There is no difference. Now the other eye I'm still working on. I still have to get that right because the depth was wrong. Once again, the depth was wrong. You're not hearing me when I tell you this. The depth was wrong. And the reason why I had to change it is because when you look down like this was, it was sticking out too far on this side. Just to make it look right, when you're looking at it dead on, it looked perfect when you were dead on. But looking down, this was sticking out like all the way out here. And it literally made the whole face look like it was crooked this way. And then this intensified that crookedness by having this lower cheek and jaw area. By fixing this, it fixed the jawline. I also added clay in here, which everybody said, oh, don't do that. No, you can't. I had to add clay in here to fix that jawline. And this was the reason why. This was cut back too far and it was too narrow on this side. Now everything is balanced, the same width from the eye cut out to the edge here. Same thing here. Here, and this is just a little bit further out. This side is a little bit further out than this side, but that's a natural. It's almost dead on. So like I said, I'm working in 3 dimensions. I'm not working in 2-dimensional world here. There's so many things that you guys can't see when you're looking at the sculpture, it has to be right. It can't be, it can't be deformed just because it looks good from a straight on shot. Not the way it works. Straight on shots are not the only angle. You have to make sure that this is right on. So that's, here's a perfect example here. I still have to bring this ear out further on this side. Now I've been filling that ear because the back side, to bring that ear out, because this side of the face sticks out a little bit more and there's a little bit more of a pitch to the ear, I had to bring out some of the back of the head in this area and make it more straight, because what will happen is when you turn this around one-handed, the ear depth becomes sticking out too far on one side, on the back side of the head. And it's okay now because I had to cut back on the ear, but I'm still not there yet. I'm still not perfectly where I want to be with this sculpture, not even close. That's why I'm taking my time, and I have decided to start trusting my eyes more, because I'm working in a three-dimensional world, not a two-dimensional world. And that's that in a nutshell. I cannot work in 2 dimensions here. This is not a 2-dimensional world. This is a 3-dimensional world. And the lips are now, as you can see, equal on both sides in depth. That's the way it's supposed to be. This side was correct, this side was wrong. And the reason why it was wrong is I kept trying to get this to sink back further, and started worrying about changing the angle. I went deeper instead of where it needed to be. This is still sticking out just a little too far right in here, but that's okay. That's nothing. It's a couple scrapes of clay and it's back to where it needs to be. But like I said, now everything is at the right depth. Cheeks are at the right depth. The line here is still too heavy. I still got to take that down and make it more smoother and rounder. But the depth's almost right, And the line hasn't changed. It's still on the same angle. It's just that it's out a little further. It's just bumped out a little bit this way and not sunk in. It literally was deep into this mouth, and this whole region right here was like literally sunk way in. I added so much clay in here and up in here, and even put more clay up in this area to make it equal to this side. There's a lot to it. You don't just say, okay, well, it looks good looking straight on. That's not the way it works. Trust me, it's not the way it works. Yeah, that right eye still got work to do. I still got work to do. It's too small. The right eye looks too small now that the lighting's changed. The left eye is on the money. Now I'm looking at this back here. I'm about how far back am I? I'm at least 5 feet away. Do I have it zoomed in? I don't know if I have it zoomed in. Yeah, I do have it zoomed in. So, yeah, the right eye is not right. So, and the problem isn't so much the upper cut of the eye. It's underneath is what you're seeing wrong. In other words, let me try and do this so you can. In here, I have to cut. I see. Yeah, I have to cut this away and bring this straight in so you can't see this this line here. Your line is, you're looking at this line as though this is going to be the eye cut. That's not the eye cut. The outer edge is the eye cut, not the inside. And that's the difference. And how I can prove that is simply doing it this way. I'm going to show you, because I'm going to cut that out just to show you what I'm talking about. Just cut it out and show you what I'm talking about. Let me see if I can do this without dropping the phone. Oops, I don't want to do it that way. I'll turn it so you guys can see what I'm doing because I got to move the chair where it needs to be. And I don't want to block your view either. I don't mean to, I'm not trying to, I just need you guys to understand my perspective is a lot different than yours. And the funny thing is, it was like Pipe Master said. When Pipe Master came over, he's just, oh my God, it's so different when you see it in 3 dimensions. You know, and that's what it was with the Night Creeper. He came over and saw it in 3 dimensions, and it changed his entire opinion on the sculpture. Changed his entire opinion. And believe me, the man's had the NAG masks. He's had them. He knows the business. He's a collector. And, you know, he was absolutely right. I needed to get it back to where I had it. All right, so what needs to happen here? I got to do with this. Now this may still have to come down some more. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Don't go that way. Don't go that way. We don't want to deform the eye cut. You have to pull it down. Boom. That brought that eye cut right back to where I said it was going to be. This is just to show you. See, if this was a latex, see, I want to bring all that clay all the way out to that edge so it supports it. Right now I have a big overhang here inside of it. Inside of here, there's a big overhang inside of here now, so that's easily dented. I can dent that very easily, so I'm going to fill that back in. All right, same with this side. I want to make sure that that's all filled in before I go and make the master copy. I have to lower the scowl, that's no doubt. I have to put a little bit of clay in here. It's very little in here. But this has to be low. Actually, I may not have to add anything to that. I just need to lower these. But this instantly fixed the eye cut problem. Brought it back to where it's supposed to be. I'm saying it's all about perspective. You got to understand I'm working in a 3-dimensional world, not a 2-dimensional world. Now, the thing is, when I did that, it brought the eye cuts back to where they look, same size. Now it no longer looks small. And it was because that line that was filled in over here was drawing you away from the edge. It was making it look like the eye cut was real small in here. All right, so that is not what we had to do. But do want to start taking down the scowl because the scowl's way too big, way too much. I'm not going to get anywhere with that little tool. I just want to make sure. Yeah, the scaled lines were wrong. In other words, the line here was more this way. I had it going straight on, almost straight up, and that was wrong. When I'm looking at that picture with that mask, and I'm sorry, I don't have any clay. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, use the clay sculpture." You can't because they didn't give me. They don't give you a real perspective. Those clay images of the sculpture, of the actual screen sculpture that he was doing. They purposely did not show you the way they photographed it. They made sure that it was distorted enough to where you couldn't see the true dimensions in all angles. You could not see that with the way they. I can't read any comments right now because I don't have you guys up on the TV on the monitor over next to me. I just want to bring down this a little bit. I'm not really working on this tonight. I wasn't planning on working on it, but I need you guys to understand. You know, when you're working in 3D versus being, you know, three-dimensional world versus a two-dimensional world. There's a big difference. And there's too much shadowing going on with the scowl, so I have to bring this down. I got to be careful how I bring it down. I don't want to bring it down too dramatically. This lesson that I learned more so discovering this jawline problem here proved to me that I am working in two different worlds than two-dimensional world like you guys are in. You have to be here to see this. You can't critique this thing in a two-dimensional world. You just can't. It doesn't. You're not going to get the right perspective at all. Now I got to sneak into this because I don't want to cut too much into this. I got to make sure that I keep looking down. I have to look down to make sure that the depth is right on both sides, same depth. And the only way I can do that is when I'm looking down onto the sculpture. I can't look at it straight on, just like you can't look at it straight on and tell me if this is the right depth. You can't see it. You cannot see it. You know, you can see the square, you can see the jawline wasn't adding up, didn't look right. Okay, that's all given. I did take away from this side a little bit to make it more like that, but this whole region right here was throwing everything off. I couldn't get the jawline correct because this wasn't far enough out this way. This was perfect. This was sunk in too far, and it has everything to do with it. It really does. You think I'm wrong? Believe me, I'm not. I'm not saying you're critiquing your eye. You're seeing what you see, but you're not seeing it in three-dimensional. You're seeing everything in two dimensions, and that is definitely not the right way to look at this, because in reality, we're not in a two-dimensional world. We're in a three-dimensional world. I'm not saying this is perfect yet. It isn't. That's why I'm still working on it. But I got to be careful not to overlook those things like that, trying to make everything else look perfect for somebody else. That's just not going to work. I can't function like that. I have to use some of my art ability as well. I'm not going to completely depend on other people on this. That's why I'm probably going to keep going with this, not so much online like I was. I'm going to do more of this, pretty much trusting my eye a little bit. That's what I did with the night creeper. I stuck with my guns with that. I knew what I was after with that. It just took a long time to do because I kept remolding it over and over again. Hold on again. I'm standing up over top of it to make sure that I get the right depth. Very important. Okay. Now, see what the problem is here. It's not going back far enough here. Almost. All right, so now that I know I have to go a little wider with that mount, I can fix that. Just a touch more. That's it right there. That is it right there. Now I have to put a little piece of clay, create that little lump right there. And I have to dig down just a little bit. I'm basing my this look right here more from a downward point of view and not so much a straight on point of view. I have to get this lip line right based on the downward look, not, yeah. And boy, is it really changing the way this whole thing looks now. It really does. It really changes the way the whole thing looks. Like I said, the reason why this looks correct now is because of this problem right in this area, all up in here. This is what was giving me the most issue right here and did not realize it was the problem, major problem. And it wasn't until I fixed it, or it wasn't until I looked down and realized, oh my God, the depth is way wrong over here. It was just way wrong. So, problem solved, and it's now fixed. But it also gave me a good lesson. It taught me that you cannot look at this as a two-dimensional thing. Cannot look at it in 2 dimensions. Cannot do it. If that was the case, and that's one of the reasons why this is the sculpture is so difficult to do, because everybody's looking at two-dimensional pictures. You know, there's artists out there. I'm not saying there's not artists out there that they're so good that they can look at something in 2 dimensions and really pull it off. But I'm not quite that good. And the reason why I don't think any of us are that good either. Let me just put this out to you, without getting offended, is because every time I made the changes that I was making, it was leading to other problems. So that tells me that none of us were right when it comes to the perspective points of this thing. You know, not just me. I wasn't the only one right. I'm not saying that you're not right when you're looking at something directly on and you know, hey, that's the way it's supposed to be. Well, it's okay. But as soon as I make them eyes too small, it's going to change the position of where this is sit back. And if I change the position of where that sits back, I have to change the depth of the undercut. I have to literally dig into that head more, or I have to add more scowl over top of the eye cut, and that's not where I want to go with this. That is like, you know, when you make those subtle changes, you think they're subtle. They're not subtle. They're not. Trust me. When I make if I were to shorten these eye cuts, man, that would change the entire goddamn forehead, change the depth of the scowl. It would change the depth. I would have to change the depth underneath of the eye cuts, because you need this upper eye cut overhanging the under eye cut. That is not that is the way the sculpture is. It's not dead even. This overhang is literally overhanging to about that depth. That's what creates the natural shadowing of this mask. It's not equal. It's not, the eye cuts aren't dead equal like a lot of people make mistakes doing. Um, there's so much that people definitely overlook. And the eye cuts are proportioned to the size of this sculpture. If I shrink these eye cuts even more, it'll look way off. And the reason why is because now the undercuts, I would have, if I shrink this down, I have to shrink the undercut and the overcut, not just over and under, not just over, not just under. You have to do both. And that changes the distance between how this looks, the length of the nose, and nothing will look right. Everything would be way off. You know, like the distance between underneath the nose and the chin, this is the halfway point, a little bit higher than the halfway point. All right. From here to the bottom of the chin, this is almost halfway. You know, as soon as you start messing with those lines, man, you are changing the way the whole thing looks in a three-dimensional world. And I didn't want to do too much of this tonight, but I did fix a lot. I got a lot fixed here. I'm still not happy with the profile. It's on. And this is still got the squareness here, and then it goes up. I want to change that position to about here, and then have it go up. You know, because that's how our jaws are naturally. Our jaw, our bone structure, is not round. It's not the way it works. Our bone structure is a jaw straight, and then it goes up. That's how our jawline is. And that's the way the actual mask is. If you look at it from a profile, you look at this, the screen used mask, you'll see that jawline goes down and then underneath here. And I still have a lot of smoothing to do. Still got the ears to do. Still not sure, you know, on how, you know, I'm still not 100% positive, because the profile still looks off and I can't figure it out. It almost looks like the face is too straight up and down. All right. And I think it was because I followed the armature this time. I made sure that the depth of the clay was the exact depth I needed on the armature to follow the armature's actual character, you know, the character of the face on the armature. I followed that instead of following the actual, what I should have followed. But that's okay. I got to figure it out. I got to figure out that. I don't even know if I can fix it at this point. I don't know if it's because maybe the slant's not slanted enough on the neckline. I just can't figure out why this looks straight up and down to me. It looks literally too straight up and down. Like maybe the jaw is supposed to come out more, but that's not the case. The jaw isn't supposed to come out. The chin line is right where the scowl is. Right here. It sticks out just a little bit more than the scowl, but not too much. It's almost dead even with the scowl when you're looking at it straight down. This is definitely protrudes out more, and it cuts back in, chin's underneath. Everything follows suit. I just cannot figure out why it doesn't look quite right to me. But when you're looking at it dead on, oh man, it looks pretty good. You know, it doesn't look wrong at all. But it's not exactly perfect, and I have to cut into here a little bit more. Yep. It's tough to sell the perspective point of view unless you were actually here to see what I'm talking about. It's really hard to criticize because you can't see it. Unlike Pipe Master, he can come over here. He can. I can't wait till he comes because then he'll really get a better perspective, just like he did the last time. But man, he's having a hard time coming down the shore. So he hasn't been able to sneak down. I'll get to it. It's going to take time. All I got is time. I'm retired. So I can do this until I get it right. But like I said, changing that eye cut to look more balanced now. It looks the right size. That definitely did it. That definitely did it. Now, changing this depth doesn't change the angle. Doesn't change that's still going downhill. It just, all I did was bring the depth out and brought it out further. That was ridiculous. It was sunk in so far. It completely deformed the entire lower jaw. Did not look right at all. Okay. So let me grab my phone now that I'm done. See, by changing that, you're still seeing that shadow underneath that eye cut. Size now, all by doing that little cutting in, taking your eye off that line on the inside of that eye. So, like I said, the mouth is still sinking downward like it's supposed to. It's just not as deep on that side of the face anymore. It's it's equal to the other side. But we don't have a jaw, we don't have a line yet for the cheek. The line has to be put back in. Yep. That's where it's at. That's where it's going to stay too. And I'm not changing perspective here too much on this. I got to figure out what's wrong with the It looks like the left eye is just a little bit bigger, and that's because of that drop down, that little drop down in here. It drops down a little bit more, and this goes straight across. I think what happens is I think I have to go up a little bit higher on this outside, just a touch more. It's dropping down too low. But I've lowered the scowl a little bit. Takeoff vision. Yeah, you have helped. I'm not saying you're not helping. You also have to realize when you're working with 2 dimensions, you're not going to get the true perspectives. You have to have, yeah, the lighting, when you're talking about, yeah, the lighting, you got to remember when I'm working on this, I have the lighting put on certain spots of wherever I'm working. I have to make sure the lighting is right. Um, you can't you can't go off of yeah, well, that's true. You can't look at those eyes without shadows, and you also have to follow. All right, you don't want to follow the inside of the eye cut. See where the shadowing is there? Don't pay attention to that. You have to pay attention to the very outer edge and the very outer edge of the lower cut. Whenever you draw your lines on that, not the inside. Nothing going on with the shadowing. Now I am going to try and fill that clay back in to where it's almost out to the edge. Once I have the eye cuts where I want them. This right eye is still driving me bananas. I still don't like the way it looks. I don't know what it is. It almost like the whole region over here is too small compared to that side. It's like this area here is all too small. It needs to come out further. Um, it just, something's bothering me about it. Something's eating at me with that side of the face. That side of the face is wrong and I just can't nail it. It's dead even when you're looking down the mask, everything is even, but there's something wrong with that outer edge. The scowl, I just have to figure it out. The scowl, the positioning of the way the pitch is now more slanted this way is good, and that's going up the right way. Yeah, I will. I'm going to lower these lights so it's more directly on the sculpture so there's no shadowing even in the eye cuts. Let me see if I can drop this down without. Yeah, I can do that. Whoa, that dropped out. Now don't go with the cheek. Don't pay attention to the right cheek, this side, because this hasn't been, nothing's been messed with yet. I don't have none of the depth right on that. So what I want to do is I need to. Oop, is that it right there? Yeah, it is. Come on. And now it goes. Needs to go a little lower. Hang on. Trying to get rid of the shadow in the eye cut. Give me a second. Let me set these lights back so they're not as bright onto the sculpt. Shadows. All right, now take a look at that now. And that's what I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna send you pictures. It looks like that left jaw still needs to be adjusted over here. Still needs to be a little bit taken off in this area. See, now I can even see that. I can see the problem with the jawline, which is no big deal. As a matter of fact, I'm going to fix that right now as we speak, because since I have the lighting where it needs to be, I might as well try and fix it. You know what I'm saying? I'll try and fix that jawline real quick. Thought I had it perfect. No, I didn't. Move the chair closer. And I gotta put the camera in a better position so you guys can see what I'm, well, you're not gonna be able to see what I'm doing right now. I'll fix that jawline real quick. Without disturbing the lighting, because I want the light right where it's at. The other problem is I'm too... You know what, I need something underneath of this. That's what I'll do. I'll stick this up underneath so I can get it better. Man, is it close? I need to sink this back further. There we go. That's it. Just that little bit made a world of difference there. But I have to smooth it out. That's another project in itself. Clean all this up that I just took off of here. And I'll show you just how little clay that I took off of that. And that's in strips. Look how small the amount of clay was that I took off of that. But just enough to where it straightened out the jawline. Now I'm just taking off the rake marks. That's all I'm doing there. That's not cutting into the sculpture at all. Just taking off the rake. Crazy, man. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate, but you have to remember, I have to also, I see this in a different perspective than you guys do. You guys don't see this in three dimensionals, and when you start saying, oh, I gotta make my eyes smaller, and I gotta do this, and I gotta do that, oh, believe me, it ain't that easy. As soon as you start making big changes like that, you're talking about changing all perspectives of the sculpture. It's just not going to happen. That is not going to happen. I got that jawline pretty nailed now, so now I'm going to take those pictures, put the lighting in place the way it is, make sure it's positioned where it was. And I said pay attention to the details of where I had the sculpture sitting before I did that. Yeah, you can still shop that if you want on your jawline's dead on now, man. It really is. Now I'm low with the camera. So let me bring it up just a touch. you're more direct. You're looking directly at it. You're at the same height. Yeah, the right eye cut, the side has to be altered a little bit more. All right, so I'll send you a pic of it. Everybody, I'm gonna. I can't criticize that. I mean, as much as I want to, I can't, because I've never had a nag in my hand. I've never had the nag mask in front of me to really. And like I said, when you're looking at pictures, you're seeing things in 2 dimensions. So the nag mask, I can't critique because I don't own one, you know, and I don't like to critique somebody else's work when, you know, when it's not there physically in front of me. It's very difficult. Like I said, after this lesson that I just learned with having that cheek area underneath and in the chin area here, all this area here was so wrong. And that was what was throwing off this whole perspective. It looked good dead on. Takeoff vision better than the V1 easily. Like I said, I'm not going to critique that because I can't, I've never owned the mask. You have to have the mask physically in your hands. And like I said, the nostrils are on too. They didn't need to be adjusted. It was just the shadowing, the lighting was definitely altering the way they looked. Even like you can see, like now you can see how it's rounded. The underneath the nose, that region there, they look right. I'm looking at it now. I'm like, wow, that really looks on the money. There's a little shiny spot at the very tip of the right side, but that's just the lighting reflection. I got a nap to this to really get the true look, but I don't want to do the naps on it yet. I'm still not ready. But it's a project, man. It's not easy. Yep, it's not easy at all. Anybody thinks that working on these sculptures are easy, it's not. You know, and you're depending on 2 dimensional pictures 90% of the time. Just like you guys are critiquing this in 2 dimensions, only you're not a sculptor. You could be an artist and you're working with 2 dimensional paintings. The minute you start working with 3 dimensions, it's a totally different way of approaching art. It really is, because you got to have all the angles right. Everything has to be right. The pitches have to be right. Everything has to be right. If the pitch is off, oh man, I could go for one of those right now. I think I might take a ride to. Now that you said that, we have a place called Wawa here. I don't know if you have them out where you're at, but it's a convenience store, and man, they have everything. That sounds like a good idea. Maybe a smoothie, but not too sweet. I don't want anything real sweet. It'll shoot my sugar straight through the roof, but I need some fruit. That's what I'm after right now. I need fruit. I need fruit. Smoothies are too damn sweet, I think, for me. I'm diabetic, so I got to be careful. But I'm going to take some pictures of this real quick, right while I'm, here doing this. I'll take some pictures and I'll send it to you. I think the jawline is now a bubble tea takeoff vision. What is that? I never heard of bubble tea. I'm not into the new stuff. I'm an old. Yeah, I'm gonna have a clay smoothie. That'd be all. Ugh. Just the thought of that. Yuck. God, that's gross. Yeah, so see, without the shadowing, it changes the eye size and shape and everything. So no shadows. It makes a big difference. And the scowl, I still think I have to bring down the right side of the scowl just a little bit more. But looking down the mask, when you're looking down it now from like you're standing up over top of it and looking down the face, everything is perfect. No such thing as perfect. Let me just say it's close. If it was perfect, it would be the original sculpture. You know, that's the key. We are trying to mimic what's been done. I think the more dominant and prominent features are on a face, it makes it easier for the sculptor to nail. The smoother a face is, the harder it is to get it right. And also, the reason why I believe that is because the details will help you. Like if there's rigid lines in a face, or there's something, you can actually see more physical. Like Clint Eastwood face. I was looking at Clint Eastwood's. There was a sculpture on here. Man, I know I saved the picture. This guy's sculpture of Clint Eastwood looks like it looks like a scan. It looks like a 3D scan. That's how accurate this guy's sculpture was. But I watched it in real time. I watched him sculpt it. And I was like, oh my God. What they did was he did a real high speed. He shot this thing over. I don't know how long he spent sculpting this thing, but it might have been multiple, and they were just sandwiched together into one long, short, high speed. But he did it slow enough to where you can see the changes. You didn't see this dramatically, done. It didn't do it that way. It was like a 10-minute video in high speed of him going through the process of doing this Clint Eastwood. And man, it was dead on. Oh my God, it was so perfect. And I was blown away by his work. And I wish I knew who that artist was. I didn't save the video, but I definitely, maybe I can look it up real quick. Clint Eastwood clay sculpture. Maybe that's where you can look it up and see if it's on the screen. I'll show it to you here live. Well, here you go. There's a perfect example. What you said, what's the downfall of the 13 mask? I actually think the downfall is it looks great dead on. But as soon as you turn that mask to the side, from either side, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look right at all. But that's just my opinion. And I'm not trying to criticize Nick's work, because he went off of the artwork, and that was just the poster art. And all you have for perspective is that straight on shot. I could make this look exactly. I can make this look exactly like the screen used mask of the flashback. I can make exactly that look if I was only going off the dead on shot. But because I have to make sure it looks good from all angles, that changes everything. It changes everything. The depth of the eye cut, the slant of the eye cuts, everything is so important to that look. You have to understand the depth of the cheeks, the depth of the chin, all that comes into play. And as soon as you start trying to make it into a two-dimensional picture, you are going to alter all those things. And you cannot do it that way. That's not the way you can approach the sculptures. That's not the way this works. So let me do this. Let me see if I can find that Clint Eastwood. I think it was definitely on YouTube. I'm going to go on my computer real quick, and don't mind my fat bod. I'm actually getting thinner, so I've lost like 120 pounds, maybe 115, something like that. I've slowed down quite a bit in my weight loss because I haven't been eating perfect either. Skip. Eastwood. This isn't this. That's not it. I'm trying to find that one that was really awesome. I can't put sound on because if I put sound on, they'll. They won't like that. Plus, you'll get this delay. It's terrible. I can't. I don't see it on there. I didn't see it on there. Maybe it's not. I don't know what he did there. I don't know why that's like that. Doesn't look like it's a clay sculpture. Looks like it's just paint. He's working on a paint job. All right, never mind on that. Clint, you're looking awful old, my friend. Not looking too good. Maybe I can find it. And scroll down far enough, I guess, maybe. So, I don't know. I can't find it. Anyway, I tried. It's not on there. Somebody, whoever, I guess maybe they took it down. I don't know. I don't know. But it was a really cool sculpture, man. It was so awesome. But the point is that you've seen some of the pictures that I was showing you on there with Clint Eastwood. He has a lot of lines on his face and everything. So you could really hone in on the eye scowl. His eye sockets are so different than the average person. That's what gives him that look that every guy likes about Clint Eastwood is his look. He's got this way about his eyes that actually can like look right through you. But it was the shape of his eye cuts and his eyebrows and the way where the positioning of his eyebrows. What I'm trying to get at is his. He has a lot of sharp angles and stuff that you can really hone in on. Where William Shatner and this particular mask, so to speak, there's not a lot of detail to really go off of. You're going off a smoother face. Just tougher to work with. That's just my perspective, though, and I mean, I'm still learning all this stuff. So, all right, I'm going to jump off of here, guys, and Asylum, I'm going to send you some pictures of this, just of what you're seeing right now. I'm going to send you a few pictures in high quality, and see what you can do with it, and see how close that jawline is now. I'm curious. All right, I'll see you.